We are back for episode 135 of Digital Divination.
Hey, you know what? I'm Ron Lundeen, and the opinions I express here are mine. I'm an employee of Wizards of the Coast, and the opinions I express here are mine and not theirs.
Oh, man, we so missed that
I
last time,
missed
Ron.
that. All right. I'm out of practice because I missed last time.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yes,
You need
exactly.
to say this in the mirror every Sunday, regardless of whether or not we're recording.
I'm afraid if I say it 3 times in the mirror, then Gary Gygax will come forward or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, we, as promised last time, now that Ron's back. Ron, did you listen to our show last time?
I only listened to the first part of it, and then I arrived at my destination and intended to listen to the rest later and didn't get a chance to. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, we said that because Ron wasn't here, we would put off talking about the Galaxy Guide till this time, because this way Ron would have a chance to review it and read it and talk about it.
This very Galaxy Guide?
Okay. That very Galaxy Guide.
There's a whole galaxy of stuff in here.
There is, and we're going to talk about it today. Where should we start?
Where to start, indeed. Like, there's let's talk about like what this kind of is. I don't think you should think about this as like a Pact Worlds type or Near Space type of book. It doesn't go into detail on everything, obviously, in the galaxy, because that would be too big of a book, or everything in like a section of a thing. This is more just sort of a like a Whitman sampler of stuff about Starfinder. A delicious box of chocolates. And even though you never know what you're going to get, you know what you're going to get in here. And that is some a little bit of like history of what's going on and where we are when 2E starts. Talks a little bit about the newborn and why Zon Kuthan and Shellen are now Zon Shellen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a brief history of the Pact Worlds and the history of the galaxy before all that happens, right? Before today. And then it goes into types of campaigns that you might play in Starfinder Second Edition, which just goes into like dystopian, fantasy, horror, all the sort of sci-fi goodness. And with like those, that's where you're going to get like kind of detailed looks at specific places. The fantasy one talks a little bit about Triaxis because that place has dragons. The weird campaigns talks a lot about Brethida and Leavara because Barathus are weird.
Yes.
And then it has a whole bunch of background sort of chunked into sections that are related to each of those sort of genres. So you can sort of take those backgrounds and pop them in within normal backgrounds you get in Starfinder Player Core. If you're playing an Into the Unknown campaign. What is it then? Then there's factions, right? Which talks a little bit about some organizations that are big, like Abadar Core and Starfinder Society. Each of those factions gets an archetype. And then it has 6 ancestries. Did I get all that right? I think that's everything.
I think
plus a map.
Yes, the map is amazing.
The map.
I was very excited to see such a comprehensive map of so many new and familiar places. It was a real delight to see sort of the galaxy laid out like that, or the chunk of it laid out like this.
Yeah, it's done in a pretty cool hex way.
I will, in part of our thing here, when I edit, we'll try to show the map right now.
Okay.
So that people can see it.
You gotta like when it's on the page in the book. It's a little difficult to see. It's a little small print, but it comes with a big poster, which you fold that out, and then you get all the good, glorious details without having to get a magnifying glass out.
Well, and the neat thing about the map is it shows 2 things. It shows the Pact Worlds, which is the solar system for Starfinder, so to speak. Then it shows Desna's Path, which is a spiral galaxy that is the Starfinder galaxy.
Right. That is the sort of setting, right?
Yes, the setting.
Dog in the background.
Yeah, and the neat thing, what I love about Desna's Path is when you go through various adventure paths, you go through all the various society scenarios, they say they take place in near space, Pact Worlds, in the vast,
right?
Some system. Well, now this map, Desna's Path, shows all the systems relative to each other.
Yep.
And that is super awesome.
That is great.
mean, instead of saying like, where on Galarian does this take place? You can say where in Desmos Path, or just where in the galaxy. But where in Desmos
Yes.
Path has a little more flavor to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't want to skim past, as far as the organization goes, the genius of having the different locations in the pack world, the different planets of the pack worlds, broken up not by kind of what they are. Here's the order of them, sort of.
Yeah.
Here's the dull order from the sun outward, but to break them up, Jason, as you were saying, by campaign types. It's important to say, okay, you want to run a dystopian campaign, that's where Verses
Right.
shows up, right? That's where it shows up as a potential campaign. Oh, you want to run a horror campaign, that's where Eox shows up. I feel
Mhm.
like that is more a much more direct way of getting to what are these differences in these worlds about, rather than, oh well, Verses is the one that has some dystopian elements, or Eox is the one where it's filled with undead, so it has some horror elements. So as soon as you're grounding things in horror, and Eox is an example of that, and it's not the only one, that's saying a lot about what that particular world in the pack worlds can deliver for you as a game master or as a player in a campaign. And I think that's actually really clever. The more I
Yeah.
saw the different types of campaigns unfolding to include all the
Mhm.
different pack worlds, I thought that was a really masterful way of organizing this book.
Do we get every one of them in there? I'm not quite. Yeah, I only kind of flipped through it, but yeah, I
I
think we
think
kind of
that
do, don't
I think
we?
that Idari is moved into the ports of call.
Oh, there's a ports of call section. That's what I
Yeah,
forgot to mention.
Yeah.
which
With a
is
little bit of Absalom Station, Adara, so other sort of
Right.
like places where anything can kind of happen. They don't
yeah.
necessarily
Any kind of
neatly
adventure.
fit
Because
into everything.
technically
Yeah,
Absalom Station is a ports of call, but the ghost levels within Absalom Station are part of the weird campaigns, which is right
yeah,
there
Right.
telling you how you can have sort of how you can have a whole genre of a campaign within another location in the pack worlds. Very smartly done.
Mhm.
yeah. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. The other thing I appreciate in, you start with the maps and then you all jump down to all the adventures. Sandwiched between that is kind of like the timeline for the galaxy, right? And it kind of reviews real briefly what happened in Starfinder, which goes from the gap till
Mhm.
317 after gap, which is when basically Starfinder 1 started.
Yeah,
And now it brings all the way to 325. And I like these numbers because now I realize I never thought about this with 317 before,
you didn't know that?
but that, no, I never looked like that. But
Oh,
No.
that's when Starfighter was released, and 325
Yeah,
is when
yeah.
25 is when second edition is
It
released.
right.
makes it easy for
317,
when
2017.
you're
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
when you're
I
planning like adventure paths and saying like when they begin, you always just know it's through it. I mean,
yeah.
Pathfinder does the same thing. It's just that the number is higher, and I
Yeah,
can't
I
quite
again,
remember what
I had
720 something like that.
hadn't occurred to me,
Or
so I'll be a little
lower,
naive.
depending on how you
Right.
consider the Absalom reckoning versus years after the
Yeah.
gap earlier.
Well, that's temporally. Numbers wise, they are lower
You're correct.
numbers. Like you don't know. It's not the math isn't different. Unless you think about
Right.
math a different way. The number 300 is lower than the number
You are
7200.
technically
Right.
correct, and everyone knows that is the
Yes,
best kind of correct.
the best kind of correct.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean,
Now
yes,
what's
technically, yeah, way after, of course. But yeah.
yeah. But what's interesting about this timeline is they in the intervening years, right, from 317 to now, they kind of highlight all the high notes from the various adventure paths that affected, kind of the
Yeah, yeah,
galaxy
Oh,
good
that's a good
things.
point.
and
Now I'm looking.
incorporate them in there.
I didn't look at that.
The
Oh, Drift Crisis in 321.
Yeah, but that's a big one. We had that
Yeah.
one had to be in there, right? Because that one was a meta event essentially, right?
It starts
You
with
know,
the Scoured Stars incident, which was the
right.
kickoff for
Starfinder
Starfinder
Society,
Society,
Season 1.
Society.
Yep.
Mhm.
right? Right. And what's interesting then, if you go back and look at all the things in the text that it talks about what's happened, they bring up all, they kind of explain, the birth of the child, the whole thing with Zon Kuthan and things like that, things that kind of happened in various campaigns. They also highlight changes in different places
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that foreshadow, I imagine, coming adventure paths.
Maybe. I mean,
That could be.
Oh,
the point of these always the point of these types of books,
yes,
when you're not writing mechanical stuff, is to plant seeds for anything, like
right,
any home adventures. Someone else can come down here like 5 years later, and the team is completely different. Pick up a sentence here and be like, oh, that sounds like that
right.
would be a fun adventure path. Not necessarily, you don't have to plan it all out in advance. You just have to just chuck seeds onto the ground and hope some of them sprout into something.
Right, right. And so all that precedes them starting then just talking about adventures, kind of as Jason alluded, with the going with the various places. So the first one's dystopian adventures, talking about how to start a campaign, giving adventure hooks. And each of them has an encounter mode, exploration mode, and downtime mode for what you could do with a campaign and that
Mhm.
sort of adventure in that setting, and giving you various planets where you can set these things in, pointing out important NPCs, important locations, talking about the culture. This is, this is a wonderful campaign book, is the way I
Hmm.
see this,
Mhm.
where if you are like, I'm working on my own adventure path right now, I'm designing for myself to do for fun, setting it in a certain kind of setting and going through a campaign book for another system. And it's like, if I were to do that for Starfinder second edition, this is all laid out right here as well. You have places you can hang on to and expand from for whatever type of campaign you want to do, either formally as the company, right, doing an adventure path, or as somebody doing a homebrew.
Yeah, it's interesting to point out that this is a book that you'd go back to over and over because it's not a
Mhm.
campaign book for a single campaign.
Mhm.
Right,
If you were going to take this book and say I'm going to make a campaign out of this information that's provided here, you would only use a small portion of the book. Other portions
right.
of the book would be available for later campaigns or for other developments or a mid-campaign shift in tone or something like that.
Part of it's just the sheer scope of having an
Yeah.
entire galaxy,
Yeah.
right? And the variance you can have from system to system and planet to planet. If you were to do it in, for Pathfinder, well, you have a planet and you have countries, you have continents. This is like that on steroids, in terms of the variety of
Mhm.
campaigns you can run.
Gotta blow it up
Yeah.
in a good
Gotta
way.
blow it up.
And conceptually different. Before we leave the history at the beginning, one thing that I found interesting when it was talking about Octurne, which is a favorite planet of mine that is now all blowed up. Um,
Mhm.
I think that they give the history very well of Karsai the king and the midwives and the birth of the newborn.
Yeah.
I don't think they use the word Nyarlathotep at all.
No, I noticed that was very interesting that they avoid saying Nyarlathotep. Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of wonder why. Maybe they want to get away from that specific cosmic horror character, or maybe they want. Obviously, it is still the same the same eldritch deity, right? Because they just refer to it kind of obliquely as a
Mm.
worshiper of a. How do they say
Outer
it in
god of
here?
conspiracies and forbidden
That's
magic.
exactly right. That's who that is. It's Nyarlathotep, but it's not ever mentioned by name here. And I wonder, because that was one of the core 20 deities of
Mhm.
first edition Starfinder, its omission really struck me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No. Well, maybe we'll find out why
It's
in an
because
adventure
spell
somewhere.
check kept rejecting different
Yeah.
ways to spell it. It just would never you never really know how to spell that name.
Yeah. What's interesting is that there's so much focus in this around the newborn, and the fact that we had literally in our Intrepid
Yeah.
Heroes uh, actual play just concluded the cosmic birthday, which kind of this whole thing,
Yeah.
the history here kind of details kind of what we experienced on a low level on Absalon Station. And it actually talks about those sorts of
Right.
events that we ran into
Yeah,
in
yeah.
this. I thought that was kind of
Well,
cool.
yeah. In fact, I don't want to give spoilers for a Cosmic Birthday, but if you played a Cosmic Birthday and then read this book like I did, you're like, oh, I remember when that happened, or oh, I know
Yeah.
those guys, right? Oh, I met those
Yeah.
NPCs. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah. So I thought that was very cool. And but it's surprising that the newborn plays such a big role. That this seems like a very central thing to Starfinder Second Edition. Like it's going to have major repercussions
Right,
throughout.
right, yeah.
It's their death of
So
Eridan, right? Which becomes a thing
Mm.
in, or I guess maybe more specifically in Pathfinder Second Edition, it's sort of a death of Gorham, right? It is an event that has so many world shaping implications that they can give you kind of a rundown, and they do, of how many different planets have changed.
right.
But then they leave the door open to later tag any change that they want to make to be, oh, it's because the newborn's effect, right? And
Yeah.
that's actually pretty clever world building on their part, because not only can the people at Paizo tell different stories because of that, but people who are using it as a game master to create your own world can shake things up by saying, why did this happen? It happened when Eridan died. Shrug, it happened when Gorham died, right? Shrug, it happened when
Yeah.
the newborn was born.
Yeah.
Very cool. Now, in terms of the adventures, like the different types of adventures that they talk about, do you have any in particular that you're pretty excited about or that you like?
I mean, I had to read the horror section first, basically.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, I think Ron might have said that too. I don't know.
No,
oh, did you?
I didn't get as far as the horror section when I was flipping through the high tech, and I saw the title of Empty Wall, which is one of the world shards of Arshelin. This is a planet that had some alien spacecraft above it, or alien space station, a huge one, and the space station broke apart, and all of its pieces rained down on the planet to be like jagged shards of metal on this sort of swamp planet. And one of my very first, if not my very first, Starfinder writing assignments were the snake, multi-headed snake people who live there. And so I
Oh,
came up with Empty
yeah.
Wall, and I came up with the Lithosarians, and how they have like multiple limbs and redundant organs inside, and how interesting that might be, and how they deal with the fact that there's sort of this technological component on their swamp world, and how that sort of supercharged their own technological advancement. And it was fun to write, but even more fun to see it as I was flipping through this book. I'm like, Empty Wall, did I write that? Oh, that is Empty Wall
That
that
sounds
I
so
know. And
familiar.
all these, it's since been expanded, and I really, hats off to whoever wrote this section to expand all of that to make it even more interesting, and weirdly to put it in the high tech section of the campaign, because it's not a place where the technology level has always been really high and you're telling stories like that. It is a place where it was like a swamp planet that was sort of forced to push up into the
Mhm.
high tech. And what might that mean?
Mhm.
That tells a very different story, and I really liked seeing
Yeah.
it there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Cool.
what about the horror parts that you
I
narrowed in on?
I mean, obviously, as Ron noted, there's Eox, which is gonna, have a bunch of good stuff in it. But I thought it was interesting that the horror section included some Callistocrat world, what do they call them?
Oh
Not
yeah,
world
yeah,
ships, mausoleum ships,
yeah.
and lots of different types of ways their process can go wrong. Well, I guess they had the two processes now, putting their uh, consciousness in a virtual machine or turning themselves into a silicon mummy. Um, that's fun. I definitely enjoying that. Thinking a little bit also too about like even though I never played it, the Fly Fear Die
Oh yeah.
kind of like Callistocrat ship where you've got to disguise yourself as a Callistocrat. But
Mhm.
that not being hard, that being a kind of a heist. So it's like an interesting kind of but that necessarily probably isn't a mausoleum shit. That was just a Callistocrat
Right.
fancy
Vessel.
vessel. Yeah. And then, I mean, there's Riven Shroud is something I never really like thought about too much before. So it's interesting to
Mhm.
see more of it here, and to maybe, get some ideas from it.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm like Ron in a couple ways. One is I really was excited to see the high tech adventure section because it includes something that I wrote as
Oh,
well.
neat.
Ah.
Uh, yeah, in that it was announced just this week that Starfinder Society, the season is going to kick off with this discussion about the first ones, and in particular,
Mhm.
this first thing they talk about, the wreck of the Returned. And then it was announced, and I can finally say that I wrote Starfinder Society Special 1-00, which kicks off
Mm.
second edition, and it's called Collision's Wake, where it talks about this initial exploration of this first one's vessel that crashes in on Akaton.
I
So,
get a sense that
Yay.
that's going to be a really big thing. Like a lot is going to build off of that and we'll look
ooh.
back in a few years and remember when it kind of started with Collision's Wake, is my sense.
Well, I kind of have a mixed things about it because they announced 4 adventures, and the first S- Starfinder Society 1-01, right, which is the first formal Starfinder Society one that's not a special, kind of gets into the whole beginning of this here. Collision's Wake is more of a special that kind of highlights maybe a broader picture of what's going to happen across the whole campaign
Mhm.
for uh, for the kickoff for second edition, but it doesn't reveal a lot of secrets. It's mostly foreshadowing, I think.
Mm.
Well, yeah, you gotta set the
Um,
table before you can eat at it.
Mhm.
sets the
Yep.
table. Now, one of the things that's happening with Starfinder Society is we're going from 4 to 5 hour scenarios to 2.5 to 3 hour scenarios.
Yeah.
So most of the scenarios are shorter. This special happens to be a double size special. Well, that just means it's 4 to 5 hours like a standard special before.
Yeah, I
And for
gotta
those of, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, I gotta say, when I heard that they were gonna be shorter, I'm like, because I had the joy of playtesting your adventure, John, you may recall.
Yes.
And I'm like,
Yes, I remember that.
John's adventure was not 2.5 to 3 hours. It was longer than it
Yeah.
was packed full of cool stuff. It was longer than
Yes.
that.
Yes.
How are they going to put that 2.5 to 3 hours? Oh, they're not. It is a
Uh,
double
yeah.
length.
Yes.
That's
Yes. I got a little bit more time on it because even with my word count, they like you to be like within 5% of your word count or less. And to accomplish everything I was trying to accomplish, I pushed the very envelope of that 5%. Let me just say.
Fair
So,
enough.
but anyway, so I'm excited. Just for that, I think um, I can't wait for that part. But there are other things I'm excited about as well. But that's what I'm mostly excited.
Yeah, one thing I'm gonna to go back and read is the Aslanti Star Empire changes,
Yes.
because I'm
Hmm.
curious to know about, like, because I know there was a little talk about what kind of stuff would happen when, even back when I was working on Starfinder, and what to do with the baddies, the
mm,
big baddies,
Yeah,
and how to make them bigger
and
and
there's
better.
the new war, right, between the
Yeah,
Atlantean Empire and the
the
Viscarium.
Viscarium. Yeah, yeah, that's exciting.
That's two really warlike societies going to
Yeah.
war. That's going to be a massive war. so, so I think that'll be pretty exciting. Yeah, so lots of cool adventures here. Um, they have Jason. You were talking initially before we started recording about the backgrounds that are included as well.
Yeah, there are pages and pages of backgrounds. A good, 6 to 8 per each of these sort of categories that we were talking about. And there's like I don't know. There's like how many categories are there? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Like seven of them. So we're looking at, like, as you said, it's 8 pages of backgrounds. So many backgrounds. Um, and so you're
That
not meant
seems
to
like a
use all.
lot.
It is a lie, but you're not meant to use all of these at once. Not to like throw them all at your players at the beginning of any
Yeah.
Starfinder campaign. You pick a section, you tack these on to the ones that are in player core, I guess, and just be
Oh.
like, oh, you just do that, because and narrow it down. But it gives you a little more extra if you're not doing a specific adventure path, which might have its own backgrounds as well, right? You just sort of
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was gonna
which is
say,
cool.
like, adventure paths have the player's guide with suggested backgrounds. So if you were doing a specific type of adventure, you could say,
Yeah,
"Hey, you can pick any background, but these ones would really fit in this type of adventure
with
that
this
we're
type of
running."
adventure. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't. I mean, I was looking at the same thing. I'm like, if somebody were to tell me, "Oh, I'm going to be running a one of these war torn campaigns," if you look outside of it, you're going to be, "Oh, war torn. Huh? I want to be the fashionista background." No,
Yeah.
that kind of doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Can I be
Yeah,
the
yeah.
busker? You see this guy, this Kasatha playing a street saxophone.
Yeah.
That's it's hilarious. He's got this to his mask. It's hilarious.
Okay, now I got to look this up.
It's page 101.
Uh, the
He also
horror
kind of has a
backgrounds.
Can I
vaguely
do it? Can
like
we share this?
calistocrat.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a vaguely kind of calistocrat outfit in a way too, with this white and gold, but he is in gloved hands, but he is just busking away.
Yeah, the busker, it's in the ports of call back, well, that
Right.
makes sense, right? He's just
Yeah.
hanging out at the docking bay when people are
Starport.
coming
Yeah.
in.
um,
Yeah, so
can we talk ancestries? I took a look at these.
All right.
One of the things that
Take a look
struck
at these
me
guys.
about what are technically the first ancestries, first 6 ancestries for Starfinder Second Edition, because our core rulebook isn't out yet. A third of them, 2 of the 6, are large, which is something that
yes,
Yeah.
Pathfinder has
I noticed
avoided.
that.
Yeah. But it took a while for Pathfinder to get to large ancestries, mainly for the sort of like what does that mean and all
Hmm.
that stuff. But now that that sort of dam has been opened,
Right.
Starfinders feel free to do all the sizes because Starfinder had all these sizes from the beginning
Hmm.
as well. First edition did.
Well, and I think so one of the things you have to worry about if you have a heavy melee combat type of system is the reach that gets afforded by a large creature. In Starfinder Second Edition, so much of the combat is ranged combat
Yeah.
that I don't think that little extra affects you as much.
Well, that's the reason that I think first edition kind of let people go wild with the sizes there and be like, because it's meant to be guns and whatever more than anything. And I think now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't necessarily automatically get a 10-foot reach if you're large. You have to have
Oh,
certain
probably not.
things. It's now that
Yeah,
we just sort of say oh, you're large, good for you. You're just
right.
big. You take up more space on the battlefield, and
Or
that can be
Well, it
because
wasn't.
or
it
not,
makes you
because
big.
one of the Dragonkin heritages, as you might expect, is you're not large or medium. And then
Oh yeah,
some bonuses. And one of the Sarcesian heritages, because I looked into both of this when they were large. I'm like, well, how do they do that?
Yeah.
For the Sarcesian, the compact Sarcesian, they can fit through stuff as though they were medium. They're not actually medium, but they can
Okay.
fit through stuff as though they were more compact. I thought that was an interesting way of, okay, we'll give you this large ancestry. But if you don't love that, if you worry that that might be a detriment, here is a way you get all the stuff from that ancestry, but you're going to be the same size as your medium sort of comrades.
yeah. I mean, we did that with Minotaur. We did that with Centaur. Just so it becomes a sort of a given heritage that you want to be like, oh, I'll just be a medium one, just because people, like you said, people might not actually want to be large, but they still want to play a Dragonkin
Right.
or a
Mhm.
Minotaur or
Yep.
whatever.
Well, what's interesting, when you mentioned in first edition automatically getting reach if you're large, uplifted bears actually were large creatures that didn't automatically get
Oh,
reach.
okay, great.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I guess because they have T-Rex arms. I don't know. I
They
don't
do
know.
not. You need to
I
give
think they
more
should have had
respect to
reach.
the uplifted bears as someone who played an uplifted bear for a very short period of time.
Oh, I love my uplifted bears. Don't get me wrong. So,
Everyone does.
um, yeah. So, yeah. The other thing I thought was interesting is that the the Starfinder core rules, that the playtest has most, kind of pretty standard ancestries. I mean, it has the Barathru in
Oh,
there. That's a
yeah,
little
that's right.
wild. I mean, the Astrozoan, the Contemplative, the Kalo, Sarzeesian, these are all really weird, you know?
Yeah,
So
keep
I think
Starfinder
it's neat
weird.
that they're getting right to weird right off the bat.
Well, okay. In my opinion, Astrozoan is gross. Not necessarily. It's weird, but also gross.
Okay.
Like like the way that they've illustrated the like we never
Yeah, oh
actually see
yeah.
like, oh, the Astrozoan. How does it? It's a weird starfish thing, and it changes shape, and you never actually like get an idea of what it looked like, what that looked like. Galaxy Guy gives you pictures of this happening, and OMG, it is something else.
Yes, yes. It
It
is.
is
It's a lot grosser looking
nightmare
than
fuel.
yeah. And I like that it shows the transition with what's the laser fox called again?
Tashtari.
Uh Tashara,
Wolf.
yeah, the
Laser wolf.
transition to
Yep.
that laser wolf, that is just
It's just
wild,
like
man.
he's bursting. It's
Yeah,
Cronenbergian
yeah.
a bit, and I love every bit of it.
I love that. Could we
Uh,
map them for the different types
could
of campaigns they have in there? Instead of putting all of the ancestries at the back, could Astrozoans live in the horror adventures? Could Contemplative live in the weird or the high tech? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they could have doubled
yeah,
down on the campaign types and
they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that they don't. There's not the numbers don't match, but basically it seems that way, right? Like they did maybe a little bit of like that, like oh, horror, contemplative might be, yeah, like you said, weird. Dragonkin's the fantasy ish one.
Yep, yep.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hollow, I'm not sure. Vlaka, I think, ends up being
War torn.
more war torn. I think they are war
Yeah.
torn,
I may
right?
say war torn for them. Yeah,
Sarcesian would be kind of like the into the
into the unknown.
unknown,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
also
Yeah.
weird. And then uh I don't know. Are Kalos dystopian? Do they have a dystopian water moon? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I don't think
They're
so.
certainly.
I
I
was
mean, they're
thinking there's
not.
more ports of call.
Yeah,
Then you put
maybe.
them in that whole other
Ports, water.
chapter. Yep.
Yeah, just flop them there. That's good.
So, kind of one thing that we haven't touched on was the factions that they talk about, which the factions by
Wait,
themselves
can
are.
we can we take a
Oh yeah,
minute
go
to go
ahead.
back? Because something I did want to mention that I thought was hilarious is the way that they
Okay.
did the contemplative, which has been a sort of always been a weird one, like you said, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
One thing is that they I don't know if it's explained here, but they have hover after their land speed,
Hmm.
which is something that's going to be need to be explained, but I know what it means, but basically, yeah, you probably could guess what it means, right? You don't actually touch the ground when you walk; you just kind of hover it. But
So they don't have to support their whole brain with those tiny legs.
no, they don't because they're atrophied and they've always been atrophied and it's been weird. Like, how do they do it? Like, oh, they're
Yeah.
terrible. If you hold something heavy, you're clumsy. That's great. But then there's the heritage, which is basically like, oh, you did not skip leg day. You actually have a normal body. Uh, retrograde, right? You don't atrophy and you get 10 hit points instead of 6. Like it's like, oh, the buff brain guy.
Buff
Yes, yes. Let's play that character.
Did
So,
we? And then if I could do one more thing before I leave, the Indiana Jones Dragonkin. You catch that?
Oh,
Did you catch
he's a
that
great guy.
picture or the kind of the piloty looking one on page 151? There is sort of a
Oh yes, that jacket is so good.
is very much a
His bomber's jacket.
bomber
yeah,
jacket and
yeah.
pants with
He's
the yeah.
got the goggles
Yep.
on. He is ready to fly a sup with
Yeah,
camo. That's what he
totally,
is.
totally. Except with huge wings. Yeah,
Yeah, he squeezed in there.
right. Don't worry about getting shot down. Shit, getting this guy shot down out of the sky. He'll just fly away
No,
from a.
no parachute
Flying
needed.
into-
That's right.
No
Yes.
parachute needed. And we gave them full fly speed. Great.
So yeah, I just want to talk kind of briefly about the factions.
Mhm.
They had these kind of groups before in Starfinder First Edition.
Yeah.
What I like about them is that before they had archetypes for Hell Knights and I think the Skyfire Knights of Glorian. That's who
That's
they
a
had,
band. Yeah, it's some
right?
Starfinder Society
Right.
archetypes from
They
first
had
edition.
archetypes before. Now they have archetypes like for all the factions
Mhm.
Yeah.
All the main ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that they have. Yeah, all the
Getting
main
to
ones,
be
which I think that's really
yeah,
cool.
a
As a
Xenodruid.
option, to do. Um, yeah, I never really played a different archetype. I've seen them played before.
Yeah, and they don't the thing about the archetypes that carries through from Starfinder First Edition, even though the rule didn't, is alignment. right? When you look at them, they all do different things from the no longer existing alignment, right? Abadar Corp is very lawful neutral, and the Hell Knights are sort
Right.
of very lawful evilish, whereas the Free Captains are very sort of chaotic neutral-ish, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Even if you're not using alignments, the fact that you're choosing, oh, I want to be a member of the Knights of Galarian faction says something about sort of the moral compass of your character.
Oh, sure,
Right.
yeah. And each of these factions does come with anathema and
Mhm,
edicts and anathema
mhm,
for you to
Right.
like put on your
Right.
character. You're gonna be like, oh, I'm a free captain. I will never uh, betray my crew,
right.
and that just helps you figure out what your character could be. You know, what kind of personality.
Right. So, but yeah, it's for a campaign book, it comes out before the core book. This is just packed full of player options.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's just adventure ideas and player options. It's like they want to make sure as soon as that core book gets in your hands, you have all kinds of things that you can just jump into, character ideas and adventure ideas. Boom, you can just go.
Yeah, this could have been an extra 178 pages in a core rulebook. I think that would have made
Yes.
the core book too unwieldy. But all this stuff is going to play right into it very well. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think I'm excited. This makes me excited for the core book to
you
come
know,
out.
Yeah.
So,
Let's
which I
get to
think
it.
is what it's designed to
Maybe
do.
I'll also just bring this with me when I go to Gen Con and read, so I have something else to read after I read through the whole core rule book.
do you do
Oh,
you find yourself with a whole lot of time to read and nothing to read at Gen Con? Because I get a sense that you're then doing Gen Con wrong, Jason. That's
I am gonna be on the floor and then not on the floor anymore. I'm back to my hotel room every night. So I'm going home a few days beforehand, and I know that I'm gonna have some time.
yeah.
I'm gonna have some long flights.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. So Ron and I are going. We may or may not see you at Gen Con. Is that what you're saying?
You'll see me if you come to the booth.
I will come to
Okay.
the booth. Yes.
We'll go to
And
the booth.
we can go, we can, like, I'm gonna have to get food at some point, so we can,
All right. Okay. So you're not just going
have
to hide out in your room. We can go
no, I'm
outside,
gonna
get a nice food
yes,
truck. I
yes,
hear
maybe
there's two lumpia food trucks there. I did not
who?
know that. Two food trucks that serve lumpia at Gen Con.
What's the lumpia?
It's a Filipino egg roll that is really delicious.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
So I look forward to
Not
that.
one, but two.
that's it.
No,
I understand that event registration is open, or at least you can sort of nominate the things you want. And I have not even looked at that, and I ought to.
yeah, I know I haven't either. I am doing a seminar as well. I think it's
Ooh,
on I think it's on Saturday. I have a seminar. I in my presenting podcast, I interviewed 100 people in the gaming industry.
Hmm?
And
nice.
I asked them how they got started to kind of on their journey to get there. And I asked them advice they had for people who want to get interested in the industry. And so now I'm kind of distilling that all down to share with whoever wants to hear it at Gen Con.
Hmm.
So
And that's your seminar?
Mm, yeah.
You need
that's my seminar.
do you need a heckler? Because I can show up. Get a load of
Yes.
this guy.
Yes, yes. And I can point to you as somebody, oh, this guy was in interview and this is the bad stuff he said. So,
Don't listen to him.
don't listen. No, listen to him. He's
No, he's yeah.
he's
Ron did it.
he's
Ron
kind
did
of
it. Yeah, the good way. I kind of stumbled my head first into this whole thing.
yeah, but well, that's what makes the interviews interesting is that across all these people, there are so many different ways that
Yeah,
people got in.
Yeah.
it's true.
But their advice is actually a relatively small set now. So,
Well, you can't. There's certain things you can't plan on
yeah.
doing. You
Right.
can't
Yeah.
just be like, accidentally do the thing. Like,
Right.
no, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Obviously,
So,
if
but
you
it's
want to,
interesting.
if you
Anyway,
want to do it, you gotta, really
so
focus
I
on
might have
something.
one or two people there. I might have nobody. I don't know.
Mm.
I don't
It's
know.
just a thing.
Well,
But
if you need somebody there going, get a load of this guy, I'm happy to be a heckler in
well,
the
okay.
audience.
I want to
Well,
mention this
go ahead.
again later, closer to. Don't know since event registration is open. I don't know. There's a plan. There's some special events that a special event that's happening in the Sagamore that's not necessarily well. That isn't. It definitely isn't a society scenario happening that I am going to try to be part of at least once.
Can you say anything about it while I have a pen and a piece of
It's
paper to?
gotta be up on here, right? It's hold on. Let me look it up real quick and make sure it is
Oh.
And do you need a heckler at it?
listed. Yeah, yeah, you okay. You no, I don't need a heckler at it. I don't know because I don't know when it's going when it is going to be, and it might actually even be completely sold out at this point. But there is a special event called the Battle of Hell Knight Hill that is happening sort of multiple times, I think.
Mhm.
Or maybe it's only happening once. But anyway, I would like to. I'm gonna try my darndest to like at least be running one of those.
Oh, sweet.
Oh,
Yeah. And of course, I say that
okay.
now. Well, so who
Now it's
knows?
on my list.
But I don't know
Well,
which one
I
to
will be
win.
running
But come on,
my
buddy.
adventure there for sure.
There we go.
Yeah, it's going to be Thursday is when that
Cool.
special's going. So, Thursday night.
I have a lot of
Per se.
confidence in whoever took that to develop it, making an already awesome adventure even awesomer. So that'll totally be worth
Oh,
doing.
me too. I mean, I look forward to seeing how much awesomer it got. I'm sure it is. So,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right. Well, this is another bit of excitement. What are we going to talk about next time? We have anything?
I don't know. Do we have anything?
I don't know. My new chicks are getting bigger.
Oh,
Chicken
chicken
report.
update.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to get an updated picture to post
Alrighty.
for the chicken report. That'll be good. Well, I'm John.
And I'm Ron.
And I'm Jason, and this has been Digital Divination.